The imperfect aspect of the past tense. The imperfect aspect is used to express actions that are seen as ongoing in the past tense, among other instances. Okay. So some examples of this might be, I was watching TV when somebody called. When we say I was watching, that was in the past tense, but it was ongoing in the narration. Okay. So, and we'll talk about some of the other instances here in a second. The conjugations for the imperfect are pretty much the same across the board. There are only 3 exceptions to the rule. The verb endings are in the table here. For AR verbs, the endings are aba, abas, aba, abamos, and aban. For ER and IR verbs, ia, ias, ia, iamos, and ian. The exceptions, down below in the salmon-colored box, exceptions being the verb ir, ser, and ver. So note the verb conjugations for those. Okay, so that's when to use the imperfect and how to conjugate it. A little more in detail of when to use the imperfect versus the preterite here. The preterite is used to express actions that are seen by the speaker as being completed, and also to narrate a series of completed past actions. So you can note the examples there under the preterite. Now going over to the imperfect, focusing on its uses, we use the imperfect to describe an ongoing past action, as was already mentioned. So to say I was reading, we can say yo estaba leyendo. So to say I was, yo estaba, and leyendo for reading. To say they were studying, we could say ellos estaban estudiando. Okay. We can also use the imperfect to express things that a person used to do or would do. So if you want to use the words used to or would, we would use the imperfect. Some examples: I used to or would go to the beach every summer. So we would use the imperfect of the verb ir. Yo iba a la playa cada verano. Again, iba expressing used to or would go. Ellos jugaban. Jugaban there expresses the used to or would play. En el parque mucho. Okay, so used to or would is one example. We also use the imperfect to describe physical or emotional states in the past. Okay, an example of a physical or an emotional state: I was sad, they were happy, we were excited, etc. So to say I was sad, yo estaba triste. I was sad. So estaba expressing I was. To say they were, ellos estaban animados. We also use imperfect to tell time in the past. To say it was 12 o'clock, eran las 12, or it was 1 o'clock, era la una. And finally, we use the imperfect to express age in the past tense. So to say they were 3 years old, or kind of a typo there, to say she was 3 years old, ella tenía 3 años. And the next one, yo tenía 14 años, expresses I was 14 years old. Alright, taking a look at some other examples, comparing the imperfect versus the preterite, the present progressive, and present tenses. When we say yo comía, I would or used to eat. To say yo estaba comiendo, that expresses I was eating. In the preterite, we could say yo comí, which is I ate. We also learned the present progressive. So yo estoy comiendo, I am eating. And then finally just the plain old present tense, yo como, which is I eat. Alright, and you can note the examples for hablar, cocinar, and servir, comparing the imperfect, the preterite, present progressive, and the present tenses. Take some time and study those. We will practice all of those together in class, the imperfect, preterite, present, and present progressive. And that is it for the imperfect: how to conjugate it, when to use it, and some uses of it in comparison to other verb tenses that we've covered as well.